In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this wonder twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as tomorrow's legends. And now, here are your hosts, the Scarlet Speedster himself, the Flash, and the Maid of Mischief, Harley Quinn.
Wow, Harley, is our show getting fun or what?
Yes, this is amazing.
Well, we got all these fun things from our dear friend Dan Caverly at Quintex Entertainment, but also the TV show is getting fun.
It's getting a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, I think Legends has really found its place among the DC shows, and what I really like is how they're seemingly the center that connects all the other shows. Do you get that feeling?
Yes, I got the feeling, but I hadn't really come to the forefront of my mind until you just mentioned it, but it really is. It's starting to connect everything, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. Well, before we get into it, I just wanted to throw out a thank you to, and I hope I pronounce this right, Anon, on being our first pledge support on Patreon. It's very appreciated and will help with our monthly expenses of the show as we continue forward.
Yes, thank you so much, whoever you are. No, I'm just
kidding. But on that note, I know because I've been on Aero Squad the last couple of weeks, and it appears there's a little bit of controversy behind the scenes about this whole Patreon thing and asking for support. So I want to just be clear over here on our show. We're not looking to get paid. We do this out of our love and fandom for the shows, but it does cost us money to do it. There's monthly operating expenses, and I just invested close to $1,000 in new equipment to make our show sound more professional. I'm sure you guys have heard the sound quality over the last 25 episodes. It wasn't always that great to begin with. So we only started up Patreon as a way to have our fans help out in those costs if they want to. There's no obligation at all. You're pledging your support of something you love. It's as simple as that, nothing more. We won't be angry. We won't feel anything negative towards you if you don't want to. It's totally fine. We totally understand. You're still our legendaires, so don't worry about that. But if you do decide to pledge, then we greatly appreciate it. We're also trying to come up with some reward ideas for certain levels of pledgings. If we could come up with a Tomorrow's Legends t-shirt or something that we could send out. Things like that, I think would be kind of cool, because Tomorrow's Legends is our show. There is nothing like it. There's nothing with that name. It's our very own branding, so it might be kind of cool. You'd have a very, very unique t-shirt.
I think that would be awesome, and I would love one for myself. So we may do this just so that I can have one.
There you go.
But just to echo what Martin said, this is purely just if you want to contribute to help us out, you absolutely do not have to. We do this because we love the show. We love the community that we've built, and that's it. Podcasting can get expensive, but that is not anything for you all to worry about. It's just simply an avenue to let people contribute should they want to, but you don't have to.
Exactly.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
Okay, good. Got that off my chest. Just wanted to clear that up just because it was feeling a little bit... There's a little bit of weight hanging onto that with the whole what's going on with Aero Squad, so no worries there. But let's get into our show. This is Season 2, Episode 10, Legion of Doom. What did you think, Harley?
Oh, it was such an ominous title.
Kind of misleading?
What?
Kind of misleading?
Kind of. I don't know. Not really. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me your thoughts on this. But for one, I loved this episode. I gave it 9.5 long-awaited answers. And I thought it was a great episode. I loved hearing the perspective from the other side. I love that we got Damien Darhk doing the intro, and he has answered questions that we've been asking all season long, which was amazing. Mm-hmm. And then we had Eobard Thawne kind of racing in and out of the scene, and then we finally confirmed kind of a popular fan theory that we had, and rewarded longtime Flash fans. Oh, there's so much to discuss, and it was such a good payoff. I'm so excited.
Cool. Well, you're going to have to tell me exactly each one of those points as we get to it.
Okay, I will.
Yeah. So, what was your rating? Did you actually say your rating?
Yeah, I did. I gave it 9.5 long-awaited answers. Oh. What did you get?
Right. Sorry, I thought I may have missed you saying that. I gave it 8.5 traditional legions.
Nice.
And it's kind of funny that you say an ominous title because, yeah, Legion of Doom sounds scary, but it's also it kind of referenced that this episode was going to be all about our 3 bad guys, so it actually made sense. But what I thought, like, they took the classic cartoon plot lines and brought them to life, which I thought was hilarious. The villains not getting along and constantly getting beat by the good guys. They're, the villains are trying to one-up each other and put each other down or whatever. They're then finally realizing that they are more powerful when they work together and can accomplish great evil things. That was straight out of the comic, out of the cartoons. The Super Friends did exactly that. They were just a bunch of misfits that couldn't get along and constantly got beat by the simplest of superheroes, and then they finally figured it out. And I think in the cartoon, Lex Luthor was their leader, and he finally straightened them out, and then they became a force to reckon with. So, yeah, nice. It was kind of funny.
That's awesome. Yeah, I haven't watched as many of the cartoons, so
right.
But I mean, it is kind of a classic ploy that the villains fight among themselves. So
yeah, because nobody ever they all think they're better than the other.
Exactly. Egos, they get in the way every time.
So true. Well, we have, before we get into our plot points, we have one little tidbit of news. We wanted to start including a bit of a news section, but there hasn't been a lot really popping that people haven't already found out, but we do have one little thing, so let's get to our new news section.
Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe.
All right, so I was looking up on IMDb, it's the Internet Movie Database, Harley, as I was curious how many episodes we were getting this season, because the last time I heard we were only slotted for 13, and to my surprise, there is 17 episodes listed.
Yay, that's good.
So we almost have a full season like Flash and Arrow, and that means a longer season for you and me.
I know, that's exciting. I think they had rumored about it earlier, but I don't know. I didn't know if it was completely confirmed or not, but if they've got episodes out there, that is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know if it was confirmed, so to me, that's kind of a confirmation.
Yeah, no, definitely. Do they have episode titles out?
Some of them do. Most of them are just episode 2.17 or 2.12 or whatever. So yeah.
The last that I had looked, there were some episode titles, but it was only for, I think, maybe 13 episodes, if even that. But yeah, so that's awesome.
Cool. Yes. All right. Well, what do you want to start off with today? What are we going to dive into first?
I want to start off with the intro.
Okay.
Because we had an unusual person doing our intro, and we got a lot of answers in the intro in the first 2 minutes of the show.
Yeah, so that's two huge changes right off the bat.
I know, it was awesome. So Damien Darhk, of course, did our intro, and as soon as I heard that, I was like, this is fantastic. And then all of a sudden, he started explaining exactly what happened to him. So we learned one of the big things that we've been asking or, theorizing about kind of back and forth was that when he was removed from the timeline, and he himself stated that he was removed from the timeline 31 years before my death, meaning that's 1985, which I had originally thought we picked him up from the 1940s. So that's I was way off there.
Well, yeah, because it just seemed the way he was reacting to certain things in the episodes made it seem like he was from farther back in history.
It definitely did. And I guess they were just trying to be funny with what they were doing with the whole like prop master bit last episode.
Right.
But I totally thought that was kind of trying to point to he was from a time where their movies weren't as huge productions as they are nowadays, or even I guess like in the 60s. But I was totally wrong because he's from 1985. So,
but I mean, now that we're talking about it, he still is like 170 years old or whatever. So he is like originally from a long time ago. They just happen to pluck him from 1985, but he still is from a long time ago. So maybe he never did really keep up with everything, cultural wise and technologically wise anyway. I don't know. Yeah,
perhaps. But
yeah,
I don't know. So that was kind of a big thing that we got answered. And then we just kind of like dive right in and continue this episode from the perspective of our villains, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting that, I guess I should have with Damien Darhk doing the intro, but it was cool to kind of see everything from their perspective. And it was a show focused more on what the Legion of Doom side of things was doing and kind of a little bit less on our heroes, which was, I don't know, I really liked it. I thought it was kind of cool, and I'd like to see them do more of this throughout the season so we can see both sides.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't expecting it to stay focused on them. I thought, this is just going to be a cool new beginning, and they gave us lots of answers. But, man, they really got to shine. And, it was teetering a little bit on the edge of corny at times.
Yeah.
But then when I realized that they're, playing up the old cartoons, and then I thought, okay, this is fun. They're just, these two guys are actually having a good time together.
I guess you can call it that, as they're at each other's throats the entire episode.
Yeah. But even the actors themselves, that must have just been fun to constantly be insulting each other back and forth, and who can out-insult the other.
I know. I would be interested to know how much was scripted and if any of it ended up not being scripted.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, because I can see, especially with John Barrowman, I can sort of see how some of that could possibly have been ad-libbed.
Oh, man. It's so funny to look at him, how he plays the Malcolm Merlyn role, and just knowing what he is like in person. It's such a change. So, Lisa right now, she met him as the goofy, crazy guy that he is, so she has trouble seeing him as a legitimate, nasty bad guy, whereas I met him first as the bad guy, and when I saw him in person, it was like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm impressed by the change that he can do.
I am too, because my first exposure to him was also on Arrow, and then I saw him at Dragon Con doing some of these panels. And guys, I am telling you, you need to YouTube Dragon Con panels with John Barrowman, because if you have not seen them or in person or ever, they're amazing. He is the funniest man, I swear.
Yeah, he's a real showman too.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah.
The guy can sing, he can dance, he can do it all.
Can pull off a dress in high heels. I'm telling you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up John Barrowman TARDIS dress. You must witness this.
Definitely.
All right. Okay, let's move on.
Yes, back to the show.
Back to the show. Okay, so I did like, in these first couple of scenes, we had some interesting parallels between our Legion of Doom and our Legends of Tomorrow. We saw a scene of the Legion of Doom bickering amongst themselves, trying to find the spear, and then we cut to our own team bickering amongst themselves, trying to find the spear. I was like, they're not really that different in terms of team dynamic. They both all just fight all the time, which is fascinating.
It was quite an interesting contrast to have it transition from one to the other like that. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, or not contrast at all.
Yeah, exactly. The similarities were, very clear as day.
I know.
But you bring up the spear, and I was starting to wonder just how many pieces of the spear there is. Like, how long is this thing?
Yeah, I was wondering that too. I want to say that they had said there were 3, but I don't know that that's actually right.
Yeah, I don't remember if they gave a number, but the piece that George Lucas had, it looked like it was about 1.5 feet long.
Yeah, that sounds Yeah, I think so. I mean, at that length, it would have to be at least 3. I don't know. How tall is your average spear? I don't know. 6 feet?
Yeah. Spears are about 5-6 feet long, but then if you have if they're like anti-cavalry spears, I don't know what the specific name is for them, but when cavalry is charging on the horses, they have these extremely long spears that they hold up to basically stab the guys before the horses can get in. It gives them way more range, and those things are like 20 feet long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I can't remember the name. If one of our fans can maybe remind me. I'm usually pretty good at this medieval stuff, but yeah. They're anti-cavalry spears, and they're long, really long. But a regular spear is about the size of a man, the length of a man.
I would put money on more of a regular sized spear than a cavalry spear.
Yeah.
But that's just my feeling. So
No,
I don't know.
agree with
We'll
you.
see. There's clearly more pieces, but where they are and who has them, that's the mystery, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it could be splintered into little bits too, I guess. And they got to go find them all. It's just I'm wondering with how many episodes there are, and they're gonna spread out, and it's basically a race between the good guys and the bad guys to find all the pieces. So, how many of them are there? And if one team gets 3 pieces and the other team only gets 1, is those 3 pieces going to be more powerful together? I'm kind of curious about this whole thing. Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of an Indiana Jones story arc. It's kind of cool.
A little bit, yeah, which I kind of liked. I kind of liked that parallel to it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I had since my nitpick last week was Sarah, I had a follow-up for this week. And I loved her this episode. Granted, there was a little bit less of our legends, but that's not why I loved Sarah this episode. I just liked that she was taking charge. I mean, she had more meaningful glaring. To me, it was less cheesy, maybe because there's less of it. I don't know. It just really worked for me this week. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. I mean, she was cool. She did take real, and I put in quotes here, kind of real captain-y command this week. Like I love her so much in this role, way better than what she did on Arrow. She's just really growing into a cool leader character, and it just suits her. She's right in her element, and I'm finally quite a big fan of her. So I hope you're happy, Overlord.
Yeah, no, I definitely like what her character has turned into on the show way better than the stuff that she did on Arrow. So
yeah,
for sure, she's gotten more mature. There's been more growth. Sorry, it's my favorite buzzword. I didn't say character in front of it. Does that count?
Yeah, but no, I mean, well, even Katie Lotz, the actress, her acting ability has definitely improved, and she's really, like I said, really dived into this role now.
That's true. Yeah, she has. I definitely enjoy the way she's portraying the character for sure.
Mm-hmm. But you got a couple points there about what it is you like about her too.
I do. Okay. So one is that, so this is kind of going to dive kind of headlong into just like one of our storylines. It was the smaller storyline. So I kind of wanted to get that out of the way before we dive into what we all really want to talk about.
Okay.
Okay. So what I liked was that she acknowledges kind of that they need to attack this problem from multiple angles, right? I mean, she listens to her team, she hears what they have to say, and then she acknowledges that both options have merit. So number one, they need to figure out who the speedster is, which it was bothering me that someone hadn't figured it out by now. So I'm really glad that they took this episode to explain it. And then number two, she acknowledged that they can use the medallion as leverage, especially now that they've learned how to activate the medallion. So in probably one of the worst decisions of all time, Martin decides to pull Lily, his daughter, into helping them decipher how to use the medallion. So they figure out how to activate it. They've got to use this like shortwave ionic pulse thing. I don't know. Apparently it's an accomplishment that it's not the size of a house. And so they turn this thing on in the middle of a coffee shop, which not the best idea they've ever had. So Martin then decides that he needs to bring her back to the Wave Rider to meet the team. We all knew that was a bad idea the second that it happened, because, she's going to find out what she is, quote unquote.
Yes.
which I feel bad for her. But I mean, our team, they're pretty much scandalized when they figure out who she is, that it's Stein's daughter, when they all knew that he didn't have kids. So pretty quickly, everybody's figured out that she's a time aberration. But this is a lot more complicated because the time aberration is the creation of a person and also someone's daughter.
Yes, someone very close.
Yeah. So that makes it a lot harder to deal with.
Yeah, but she gets teamed up with Ray after she figures out how she can help them with it. She gets teamed up with Ray, and it's fun. Ray getting to be nerdy with any other nerd is always great. But I love this actress playing Lily. She's a sheer delight to watch, and she actually looks like Stein's daughter, like not physically, but just all the personality traits and just her nerdy intelligence and the way she talks and everything. She's just like him. They couldn't have casted her any better.
Oh, I know. I love it. I think she's great. Like, I'd be okay if she joined the team, to be honest.
Yeah, I would love having her coming around every once in a while, for sure.
Yeah. No, she was great. So I felt really bad. Well, of course, it's, McRory. I mean, we knew it was going to be, even though they specifically warned him. You still know it's going to be him that does it.
Well, even the way he says it, he said fake food for a fake person or something like that. And she's like, what? What'd you say? I'm like, oh my God, Mick, shove that donut or whatever it is you're eating farther into your mouth, would you?
I know, right? It's like, drink that beer a little faster, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, poor guy, poor girl, yeah.
I know. So I felt really bad for her, but of course, I mean, we knew this had to happen. And so I guess if you think about it, I'm really kind of glad it happened sooner rather than later, because we always hate when stuff like this kind of gets drawn out episode after episode. It gets kind of tedious.
That's true.
Yeah. So it was nice to kind of get a little bit of resolution here. So of course, she has to confront her father. And so the interesting thing that I kind of thought about this whole interaction was they don't know like which person. Let me start that over. Like, how do they know which person's perspective is actually reality and which person's is actually the aberrant version of it? Because, to her reality is that she's had a father this whole time and that, she had a great childhood and she was loved. And his reality, even though he's effectively been pulled from the timeline at this point, is that he had no daughter. So it's just an interesting way to kind of go about which person's perspective is truly aberrant and which one's is not. Yeah,
when you really actually think about it, because it's not like her life started at 25 years old, however old she is. She had her entire life and she remembers it, but he doesn't. And I think it's because his memories are still being written as time cements, because remember this whole thing, everything that they change, whether it's for good or for bad, like mistakes, takes time to cement. So I think his memories are slowly being rewritten in his head, and he starts to remember things as they're getting planted in there. And then once it's cemented, he'll probably remember her whole life.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's still kind of not 100% set in stone. So if for some reason they did something else back in time, she could technically disappear again.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah. I guess if he went back and interacted with that part of his past again, yeah.
Interesting. I wonder if they'll continue to play with that or if they'll just kind of leave her be.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the feeling I'm getting is she's finding a place on the show and they're not going to do anything bad to her. I don't think Legends is going to dive that deep into the heartbreaking realm. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, I kind of hope not. Like I said, I like the character, and I'd be cool if she stuck around. She interacts well with our team. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But we got an answer here that I've been asking. I think we've both been asking. We wanted to know why they didn't have kids in the first place.
Yeah.
And apparently he was afraid he would be just like his own father.
I mean, do we really get a painted picture of who his father was? Just kind of was he just a deadbeat dad or was he an abusive dad? I wasn't really sure what.
I don't know. To me, I just got that he was kind of absent father, not a very interested in his kids kind of father.
Right.
I don't know if he worked all the time or if he just wasn't interested in his kids. He just one of those things of, past generations of like doing his duty, to have the family, even though he didn't want it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And unfortunately for his kids, they knew that they weren't wanted, which is really sad.
So he just didn't want to give a kid that same feeling, I guess, is really what he was trying to say to Jax. And it was tough stuff. Like, man, Jax sets him straight though, but it was a pretty heartfelt scene for sure.
Yeah, those were some great scenes between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Between both actress that plays Lily and then between Jax and Martin. Those were all great.
Well, and I think as we get to our quote of the week, you'll see, I think I pulled a couple from that stuff. So.
Oh, good. Those are some good ones.
Yeah. Because, I like the heartstrings being tugged. You deal with the funny stuff. I look for the tear jerky, make Flash cry stuff.
Yeah, and this is why you're in charge of the serious quotes.
Because you're Harley Quinn, you don't cry.
That's right. That's not entirely accurate, but we'll go with it. Got to keep up my persona here, right?
Exactly.
All right. So, you want to dive into kind of this main storyline because there's a lot to unpack.
All right, let's go.
All right. Okay. So I'm just going to throw this out in advance. They're not going to be in any true specific order. I tried to kind of group things, I don't know, into key events or key questions. So we're just going to kind of roll with it and see what happens.
Sounds good.
All right. So first point of information. Why did Rip encode safety deposit box information on his tooth? Was that just supposed to be like safekeeping in the event of his death? Or especially since we learned that his memories are stored in the safe deposit box? I didn't really understand why that was on a tooth.
Yeah, because
Any ideas?
Well, I don't know. Maybe we can work through it here, because my question to add to that was when he touched the time drive with the spear piece in hand, did that not immediately wipe his brain? So how did he have the sense to copy his memories to a drive and then put it in a safety deposit box at the bank? He had no time to do that when the Wave Rider was hit by that nuclear missile.
No, so which is why I guess so. I don't think he can remember season 1. Would be my guess then. No,
exactly. So that's what I'm thinking is if all that happened, the way the show made it look is that as he arrived back in the 70s here and was becoming the filmmaker and all that, he went to a bank, deposited his tooth with his information, put it all under this lock and key, and away he went with his life. That's the feeling I get. Unless the only way I can answer that, which is hitting me just now, is this is something that, because he's from the farthest future you can think of, and they've got technology out the yin-yang. That tooth and the device in there is probably constantly recording his memories. And maybe at some point he went and took, because the tooth's in his head all the time.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if the tooth is constantly absorbing his memories, and then when it unlocks the vault, the thing at the bank, whatever that little disc was, the disc is kind of like the hard drive that you can take and plug in and either re-upload his memories to his brain or download them to another computer to get information you need. I'm not sure. I'm trying to guess at what the technology would mean, but my point is that I think that tooth maybe is constantly in operation. So whether he remembers it or not, it still has everything stored.
Okay, so it could be more of like almost like a transmitting device with the, like, it's like linked into his, I don't know, like biomechanics somehow, and it's still like picking up all of his information and it's sort of like beaming it, for lack of a better phrase, down to the thing. Exactly. Now, that'd be interesting. That'd be the easiest way to do it. That's
the only way I can think us through this, because other than that, it makes no sense. He forgets everything.
He won't remember season 1 at the very least.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. That's all I got for you. That's maybe our listeners might have a different angle to that theory.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out. Let us know. Send us in some feedback if you've got a different theory after hearing this.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So,
all right. Well, this was just kind of an amusing point. Merlyn and Darhk. So they're trying to use Rip to basically recover his safety deposit box information. So they send Phil in undercover, which was completely amusing since he had no idea about any of this technology since it's in 2025.
But remember, they think the safety deposit box holds the other pieces of the spear. They have no idea what they're about to find.
That's true. They think it's just, they think it's the rest of the spear, not just like this guy's memory or Rip's memories. This guy, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this whole mission scene was just very amusing to me. And I love that it failed because the failsafe is a passphrase that he set up, which of course he doesn't remember because he doesn't have his memories.
And I like when Malcolm was saying, "Don't you leave," and Darhk was saying, "Get out of there." No, and he's going back and forth, but he doesn't, and the guard's just looking at him, sir?
He's like, what is this guy doing? Maybe he needs to walk back and forth 3 times to remember his code. I don't know. Oh my gosh. But anyway, so they're waiting on Rip Phil to kind of like do his thing, and Damien and Malcolm seem to be
Phil.
having this conversation that us fans have been having all season. Why is he using Damien and Malcolm to do the dirty work? Why is he not staying in one place?
Yes.
Why?
We were asking this due to listener feedback last week about his blinking watch, and we surmised that it might be to avoid the time wraiths.
Yes.
Which
was close.
We were pretty close.
Pretty close.
I mean, the idea was bang on. Just we had the wrong evil creature he was trying to run from.
Yeah, I know, which I kind of conveniently forgot all about. So I'll let you do that explaining when we get there.
Sure. Yeah, well, we'll get there in a sec, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, okay, so first let's kind of dive into our speedster recon. So these are kind of some of the scenes that were happening with our legends back on the ship. Now, this was fascinating to me.
Oh, it is. I said, oh, yes, it is.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so fascinating. So it revealed kind of an interesting nuance to the show that we know from The Flash, but we've just kind of never seen it play out because our team can't figure out who the speedster is, and we don't understand why they can't figure it out because for whatever reason, I conveniently forgot this point, that Eobard Thawne doesn't actually exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't exist. They've never met Thawne. They've never heard of him. No one has. The real Thawne erased himself. Well, he didn't erase himself from existence. He was erased from existence. And only Martin Stein actually knew about this because he was around during season 1 of The Flash, and he finally puts 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, he just wasn't connecting it at all.
No, he wasn't connecting. He wasn't connecting it at all. So Eddie's death, right? That is what erases Thawne from the timeline.
Eddie Thawne.
Eddie Thawne,
right.
Yes.
Great grandfather, I guess, something like that.
Okay. So see if you can kind of explain this to me because I haven't rewatched season 1 of The Flash. It's been a little while. So they say on the show that Eobard Thawne was protected from Eddie's death because he's a member of the Speed Force. And then Stein says it's complicated.
Yeah, it is. Barry went back in time and pulled him from the timeline and imprisoned him to stop him from killing his mom. So he was removed from the timeline, then escaped after Flash let him out. Remember when Eobard dropped Barry off at his doorstep and said, well, everything's back to normal. Well, for me at least, and then takes off.
Okay.
So, because Barry went back to that point in time before he kills his mom, and that's when he grabs him. Was way back when Barry was a kid. He grabs him from that time point and rips him out of the timeline.
Okay.
So it's that version of him which hasn't gone, because remember, they're jumping back and forth in time so much. So originally Reverse Flash, or Eobard Thawne, originally comes from his future to 2016 present time, messes around with Barry, then goes farther back to when Barry's a kid to kill his mom, and then comes back to 2016 to antagonize him about it. And that's when they meet Eobard Thawne for the first time. And then Barry goes back to the same point of time when he was a kid to fight with them. And we've had so much back and forth things. So there's all these time remnant versions of him. So when Barry went back to stop the version of Eobard Thawne that was there to kill his mom, that's the version that he plucked from the timeline. But there's still the other versions of him when he's jumping around. So as we get to 2016, the future Eobard Thawne is still going to show up, because that's the first instance of him. He's still going to come from the future and be in 2016. It's hard to explain, but it has to do with all the jumping back and forth, is why the version of him that got plucked from Barry's childhood can survive still by not allowing himself to go through back to 2016 where he eventually gets killed. Does that make sense at all?
Kind of.
I was getting confused. The more I was saying, I was like, okay, I'm starting to go in circles here. It's not going to come out clearly, but I tried.
Yeah, like I'm following what you're saying, but it's just so confusing. Just like because there's so many different like time points that he kind of goes to, but you have to keep in mind that he's like from the future.
Yeah.
So when he gets erased, he's erasing everything from the point that Eddie kills himself on, but then he's still been playing around in the past.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
And so Barry takes a point from him from the past, but now he's having to run all over the place so that he's running from time, essentially, so that his non-existence doesn't catch up with him.
Yeah, so he doesn't catch up. Well, he doesn't catch up to the time where he'll disappear if he stays. Yeah, that's the way I see it. I mean, come on. If Martin Stein says it's complicated, how am I going to explain it any better than him?
I mean, that's fair, but your name is also Martin, so I had to try.
Yes, and the Flash. I guess because I'm the Flash, I should really just know what happened to everybody, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, come on, just go back in time and figure it out. Let's go.
All right. But anyway, as long as we got a rough idea, so you kind of get it, that it's a past version of himself that was plucked from the timeline. So that version of him has not been able to go back to the present day timeline where he gets killed, or the future timeline, and something like that.
Yeah.
He's running from time, catching up to him.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, follow-up question. And this, I am specifically talking about Eobard Thawne. Uh-huh. How were they able to actually lock him in the vault? Can't he phase out? Why not? I mean, I saw later in the episode that there's like a grid there, but you didn't see that the first time around, so I don't.
No, and they didn't deploy it. I think that was part of their trap to stop the thing that was chasing him. So at this point, that's part of my nitpick.
Okay.
Because they basically close the door, seal the lock, and Thawne looks all nervous and scared. He's, "What are you doing? I got to get out of here." And I don't know why he couldn't. Maybe there's something to phasing that they haven't described yet. Maybe there's a certain material they can't phase through, or if it's thick enough. I mean, those are bank vault walls, and they look like they're 3 or 4 feet thick steel and whatever. Maybe there's a limit to how much they can phase through.
Yeah. That's definitely true.
Because when the Flash, well, I should say when the speedsters phase, they're basically just shaking their own molecules so fast that they can pass through other objects. Because if you remember from science class, even though it's a solid wall, the molecules are actually still moving.
Right.
They're just moving at a speed that it makes it seem solid. So Flash vibrates himself to be able to maneuver through that. So I'm wondering if maybe when it becomes a certain dimension of thickness, he can't work all the way through it. That's my only answer to that. Or it might be a certain material. It's like Superman can't use his X-ray vision through lead. Right. So maybe there's something Flash's speedsters can't phase through. I don't know. I mean, they definitely didn't explain it, and it leaves us wondering, because I know that was a lot. I think it's in a lot of our feedback. A lot of people are saying, why didn't he just phase through? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was everybody's answer, because since they've specifically introduced phasing, especially since that's his personal brand of killing, and you see his hand, he phases his hand as he threatens Merlyn.
Yeah.
So we know that he's capable of phasing at that point in time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, he's the one that showed Flash. I think he's the one that taught Flash how to do that.
Yeah, no, he did. Well, the Tom Cavanaugh version of him did.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, I mean, all of these scenes with Matt Lesher, it's just, the guy is absolutely fantastic. Either as the evil, maniacal leader that he's been, or when he completely freaked out about the Black Flash, this guy's performance is phenomenal.
I know. I absolutely love him. So why don't you talk more about the Black Flash?
Okay.
Do you want to talk more about that now?
I thought I had written some notes here, did I? Oh yeah, well, okay. You're kind of wondering who the Black Flash is, or you had forgotten who he is, and the way the TV show wrote it is it was our old friend. I was going to say Teddy Sears, the actor, but
Close.
Yes. Holy crap! I'm having a mind blank. What's his name?
Zoom?
Not Zoom. What was the character?
Hunter Zolomon?
Hunter Zolomon, thank you.
Sure.
Yes, it was Hunter Zolomon who pretended to be our friend when they eventually, because he was running around time, screwing time up, so the time wraiths were after him, and at the end of season 2, that's how Flash Team beat him, as they trapped him for the time wraiths to come catch him, and when the wraiths got a hold of him, they changed him into this Black Flash, and the Black Flash is basically a mindless hunter. He's like the Grim Reaper who only goes after speedsters, and whereas the time wraiths kind of go after speedsters that are screwing up the timeline, the Black Flash goes after speedsters that not only are screwing up the timeline, but that don't belong. And he's the Grim Reaper. He just wants to come. He basically, if the Black Flash gets a hold of a speedster, at least in the comic books, he ages them at hyper velocity speed. So Flash would go from being 25 years old to his death in a matter of seconds. He basically sucks the life force and the speed force right out of them. And you see them wither into little old men's skeleton things within seconds. So that's what the Black Flash does, and he only chases down speedsters. And there's a cool storyline, and I think it was one of the ones that I had offered up for Opal Drake to read, was in Flash Rebirth. There's a huge storyline in that where Black Flash is after all of them, and Barry Allen actually has to work with Eobard Thawne together to try and stop him. And Black Flash grabs a couple other speedsters, like some of these other guys. I think there was Max Mercury and Savitar was actually in there. There's a few of them, and Black Flash got a hold of a couple of them and actually killed some of the speedsters. So it's, yeah.
So do you think Black Flash could come back and be our cure, quote unquote, for Savitar?
Yeah, it's possible.
I mean, I don't know what he would do to provoke the wrath of Black Flash, but...
Well, I see. It depends on
I don't know how else they're going to beat him right now.
It depends on how the TV show is writing Black Flash. If he's after speedsters that screw up the timeline, or if he's just after any speedster, what's going on? But there's a lot of theories on Flash right now about Savitar, and we can save that for our little Flash talk if you want.
That sounds good.
At the end, because that's another new section we're trying to incorporate here.
Cool.
Anyway, did that explain Black Flash to you, though?
Yes, it did. That was helpful because, one, I had completely forgotten what happened to Zoom. Like, I remember it now that my memory has been refreshed, but I have no idea. I don't have a comics background when it comes to the Flash at all. So I had no idea what Black Flash was, and then I didn't pick up on the cues from his suit that, it was meant that it was Zoom, effectively. Right.
Well, and they did a good job. The way they made him look, I mean, that was some freaky zombie looking thing. That's exactly what he looks like in the comics. It's amazing. Maybe we can post a picture on in our blog post or something if we can add pictures. He looks just like, they did a good job. Just with him, I loved those scenes when he was after Eobard, and they're like, Eobard, don't move, just stay still. And it kind of reminded me of like The Walking Dead and zombies. And if you if you cover yourself in blood and guts, the zombies can't smell your living flesh, so they don't know you're there. And that's what it kind of reminded me of. And he's standing there, and the guy's, oh yeah, like he's sniffing and he's looking around, and when he gets right up to his face and he kind of does that kind of, oh my, I don't know how you could stand there. That was creepy. You could see like Black Flash, half of his face was gone, so you could see his jaw and his teeth all the way back to his throat because he was missing half his face. Wow, yeah, God, it was freaky.
It was gruesome.
Yeah, it was gruesome and it was freaky. Awesome. And again, look at Matt Lesher's performance, how scared he looked when Black Flash was sniffing. It was, yeah, and I've actually, wait to see our title screen, because that's one of the ones I pulled from. It's going to be fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, those were some of my favorite scenes. One, because Matt Lesher is just amazing. Like you said, he goes from being completely evil, like self-assured, and then he's just like completely terrified. And I was like, this is awesome. Yeah. One, it actually humanizes his character, and two, like I just love the way that he played it. It was great. Yeah,
and well, that's also, we've pretty much covered my nitpicks, so I'll just go into a little bit of detail when we get to it for sure. But
okay,
yeah. So now we're at the end here, and there's a nice scene with, or we're near the end. There's a nice scene with Lily and talking to her dad, and they're kind of hashing things out. It's pretty heartbreaking because he has to explain to her the whole story of, he had to admit to her, I didn't want kids before. And, so I can imagine how hard that would be for her to find all that out. And it was touching. And I hope we get to see Lily more. She's a great support character.
Yeah, no, she is. I really like her, and I like the dynamic. I mean, it's bringing a different side out of Martin Stein, which I think is important as well.
And also highlighting still, yet again, Victor Garber and his performance. I think Victor Garber and Matt Lesher, the two of them are powerhouse performers on this show.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So we need to get them in a scene together. That would be cool.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, that'd be great.
All right. So the final scene, Rip Hunter. What's going on there?
Apparently the Legion of Doom scrambled his brain, and he's killed George Washington, which seems bad.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. So what does that mean? Does he? We saw him reverse flat. We saw Eobard as he was piecing the Rip's memories back together. He's like, well, we can't just piece them back together fully normal, can we? No, let's go in there and let's make a little bit of a mess for ourselves.
Right? I was like, oh man, of course they're gonna do this. So how are we gonna get Rip unscrambled? That's what I want to know. Well,
and so what did they do? They rewrote his brain to be a villain, I think. I'm not sure.
It looks like they changed his memories to me.
Okay, but what would they have changed? Because they're using him to go mess up history and maybe keep our team off their tracks. That's what I'm trying to figure out. What did they do to Rip? Did they change something to make him think he's a bad guy and he's part of their team? Because I think that would be such a great use for Rip if he becomes part of the Legion of Doom and is a villain for the rest of the season. Because then we don't have to worry about him coming back to be captain of the Wave Rider and interfering with Sarah and all that. I think sliding him into being part of the Legion of Doom might be a cool...
Now that would be a twist.
Cool take, yeah.
Yeah, well, especially because, let's see, if our memory beaming theory is incorrect, he has no knowledge of Season 1, in theory, assuming he had to have left his memories prior to the events of Season 1 taking place, or at some point during Season 1, perhaps, who knows. Mm-hmm. So, if he doesn't have those memories already in place, yeah, they could just tweak some character traits of his, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, and convince him that he's part of the Legion of Doom and kind of insert their master plan into his brain, and then he carries it out. Perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I like it. It gives me hope for there being a use for Rip Hunter's character on the show. Because he really wouldn't fit, no matter what way you write it. There's no way he can fit back in on our team. I don't think.
It would, yeah, I don't know how they would pull that off. I don't have any good ideas for how that would happen right now.
Yeah, so, but I mean, anyway, the scene is he goes back and he shoots George Washington, and he shoots him with a modern gun. That was like a 9mm Magnum or something. So
I know, I was like, that's not smart.
But, well, Legion of Doom, they don't care about being smart. They're shooting laser pistols in the 40s and whatever, so they don't.
That's true. They're causing aberrations left and right.
I mean, so that, you know what, this is going to make interesting for next episode, because if he shoots George Washington, that changes the tide of the war from that period.
Yes, it does. It changes everything.
Yeah, like that's a major aberration. So I'm curious what our next episode is going to look like.
That's true. It should be good. I'm kind of excited for it.
Yeah, we'll have to see. All right, well, nitpicks have come up a little bit, so let's get into our nitpicks.
Form of water.
Well, Harley, what little nitpick do you got?
All right, I'm not going to lie. I really like this episode, so mine's a little thin. But within the episode itself, they didn't actually give us an explanation of our quote-unquote Speed Force zombie. Mm-hmm. I mean, they gave us cues that like we as the audience could pick up on. But I don't know. I guess maybe Eobard wouldn't be aware of everything that happened with Zoom. So maybe that's why he couldn't like give that explanation. So I don't know. Yeah. I just thought it was kind of weird that they didn't put like a name to it, or he didn't know exactly who or what it was. But maybe he truly doesn't know who or what it was. So I really like this episode. So that's my thin nitpick.
Yeah, I'm kind of guessing they assume most of Legends viewers are coming over from The Flash, and everyone would just know without them having to explain it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I watched the whole season and still didn't pick up on it.
Yeah, true.
But
true. So
it was very subtly done. It was very well done, but it was very subtly done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and basically he's the Grim Reaper of the Speed Force. That if you just think of that, then you'll understand Black Flash.
Okay,
what he was. So yeah,
cool. Well, what was your nitpick?
Well, it ties back into the whole locking Thawne in the vault thing, and couldn't face through the wall. So I think I kind of explained myself out of that. What I found a little bit odd with that whole scene is I didn't like his instant change from being such a confident, controlling leader to a sniveling scaredy cat from that scene cut. Because he was, large and in charge, as he always is, and we're all going, man, he's such a good bad guy. And then when they cut and come back from the commercial break, whatever that cut was, he's just sniveling scaredy cat suddenly. And I just didn't like seeing Thawne, who's been such a badass and a dominating personality, get whittled down to that crybaby so fast. But I also countered that already with Matt Lesher's performance, because that's an amazing performance. He's killing it every single time he's on screen. So I think it knocked him down a bit from that dominating personality. I was like, oh man, and which makes sense story plot wise, because they needed to get them all on a equal playing field so they could all be partners and that whole thing. So it made sense in the end. It just when it happened, it bothered me. I was like, no, you're not a whiny baby. What are you?
No, I agree, because I had the exact same kind of like feeling about it. I was like, yeah, okay, that was an interesting switch.
Well, because look at it from Merlyn and Damien's perspective. All of a sudden, he's not such a scary person to deal with when they see that kind of reaction out of him.
Yeah.
But here's a point, and before we actually move on, when he was confiding in them, the reason he's so scared, Damien and Malcolm said, oh, don't worry, he's not the first bad speedster we've had to deal with. Who are they referring to?
I thought they were just referring back to him himself and how they had locked him in the vault earlier. That's just how I took it, but
I thought maybe it was like if they were referring to Flash somehow or something else.
They could be. I don't know. It was was kind of a nebulous explanation.
Huh. Cool.
I thought they were just being kind of like tongue in cheek and speaking about him specifically.
Well, that's possible. Very possible. All right, now it's time for Quote of the Week.
Shape out an eagle!
Yay, quotes.
All right, well, what was our winning quote of the week for funny ones last week?
Our winning quote was naming the spear.
All right, here it is.
Warren, Darhk and Merlyn, former LOA.
He must be getting closer to the Holy Lance.
I'm leaning towards Spear of Destiny.
I prefer Holy Lance.
Can't imagine why.
Can't imagine why.
Still funny.
Still funny.
Cool. Well, I think because this was such a fun episode, we both found 5 quotes this week, didn't we?
We did.
All right. What is number 1 for our funny quotes of this week?
Idiotic metaphors.
The workings of the medallion are lost to history. Trying to get it to reveal its secrets will prove difficult, plus we have an additional advantage over them.
Enlighten me.
They're idiots.
You're all idiots.
Excuse me?
Pot, meet kettle. Yeah, given your glass house, you shouldn't throw stones.
Mixing metaphors isn't going to solve anything.
It still makes me laugh.
Oh, it is funny. Okay, and what is number 2?
Travel ideas.
Oh, well, for one thing, it's throwing off low levels of ionic radiation.
Is that an ionic transmographer? I've never seen one smaller than a house.
Yeah, I had an idea for hyperminiaturization when I was in Tahiti. I don't vacation well.
Poor girl.
She's just irresistibly cute. There's something about her.
I agree. I really like her.
She's funny. And quote number 3.
Tasty weapons.
What are you doing? I'm trying to make up my mind. I mean, Eobard has such a delicious selection of killing devices.
I love Neil McDonough. I just love it.
Delicious. Like it's like he was describing chocolate or something.
I know. His favorite meal, whatever.
Too funny. And quote number 4.
Historical link.
Plus, Gray said Lily could hook the medallion up with Gideon, so...
Wait, she wants to try networking an ancient amulet with an advanced AI system? I'm totally helping.
Ray, that was a perfect Ray moment.
It really was. It was fantastic.
Okay, and our last one, kind of the bonus one.
Not a beer stein.
Is that whiskey?
Of course it's not whiskey. It's brandy. What do you take me for, a sailor?
Not a beer guy. Or stein.
No. Well, I like the stein, beer stein. Yeah.
It's a very clever name. I do enjoy your names. It's pretty great.
Cool. Well, that's a good selection of funny ones this week.
That is great. Yeah. I see you renamed our serious quotes.
I did. Well, because we've been talking about them so much as being more of the actual scene instead of just a one line. So I thought instead of quote of the week serious, it's scene of the week serious.
All right. I like it.
All right.
So who was our winning scene from last week?
It was Help Us, Obi-Wan.
Look, George, I don't care about movies, but guys like them, they do. So before you get in that car and drive back to Modesto, just think about them, okay? Them and all the millions of other people that your stories will someday inspire. The future of the entire world is at stake, and you're our only hope.
Perfect, of course.
Of course.
Cool. Well, I also found 5 serious scenes this week.
Fantastic. What was our first one?
First one I called Quick Death.
I suggest you keep it to yourself.
I'm sorry. Am I supposed to be afraid of you?
Oh, I would be. Considering I can kill you before you even knew I was doing it.
Yeah, that's scary.
It's terrifying. Is it sad that some of these actually, in my mind, were contender for funny quote of the week?
Some of them, yeah, because they're, well, you've said tongue in cheek, but yeah, they're terrifying, but from a different perspective, they're actually, that actually suits him saying that. It's pretty funny.
It completely does. And anyway. All right, what was our second one?
Second one is self-awareness.
So, what are we waiting for?
Nothing. It's just if we've underestimated the size of the artifact's data stream.
We'll fry the ship's CPU and we'll all spend the rest of our lives stranded in the temporal zone.
The ship's CPU has a name.
Sorry, Gideon.
Can we at least talk about this before you connect?
Gideon?
Yeah. Something.
That was another one I almost picked for a quote.
But as always, there's something I'm just attached to Gideon. I want her as my own personal computer. She's so darn cool.
I think we all do.
I just like how they're arguing about frying the ship's tree, and she's like, I have a name.
I know.
So it was kind of funny, but I just love it. I love her.
That's great. Okay, what do we have for number 3?
Good question. And no, I'm not saying that to you. I actually called it good question.
What about what he said to us earlier?
That he wanted to kill one of us?
No, that he didn't know why he was relying on us. I mean, fair question. Why does a time-traveling speedster need to rely on anyone?
See?
Mm-hmm. Great question.
Why? Exactly.
Exactly. All right. Where are we doing for number 4?
Well, number 4, grab a Kleenex. This is a bit of a tearjerker. I actually, it's a very, very long scene, so I actually split it into 2 and combined them. And anyway, here we go.
What is a time aberration?
I'm sorry, what?
You heard me, Dad.
An aberration is an unnatural alteration of history as a result of time travel.
Dad? Am I an aberration?
That word could never describe who you are or how much you mean to me.
So it's true?
Please let me explain. Actually, it's quite fascinating.
This is not fascinating, Dad. This is a nightmare.
Oh, Lily, I'm so sorry. This is not how I wanted you to find out.
No, I get it. You didn't want kids when you first came on board this time ship. And now you have me.
I know. Those were such good scenes, though. Oh, so good.
And I think I forgot that one was called Time to Confess.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we said the name. Okay.
No.
Okay, what do we have for the last one?
The last bonus one is called Blank Pages.
You know, the reason Clarissa and I chose not to have children the first time around was because I feared that history would repeat itself, that I would be the kind of father that he was.
We're legends, Gray. Changing history is what we do.
Yeah. Tough scene.
It was.
All right. Well, it is time for feedback.
Planetary powers, activate!
Cool. So, before we do the actual feedback, I had found something, Harley. I had asked Patty Spivot to check out iTunes for me, because we actually got iTunes rating and review.
Oh, that's nice. I haven't checked in a while because we didn't have any for a while.
Yeah, so this one came in on January 16th from Doug P45. And he gave us a 5-star rating, and it says, "This show is entertaining and insightful on every episode and supplies many fun theories on where the plot lines may be going from the hosts and fans alike. Try this podcast out and you'll not be disappointed."
Oh, that's nice.
A pretty awesome review. So thank you, Doug P45. That was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So anybody, let's remind everyone again that submitting a iTunes review helps get us exposure, and it even, if we get enough reviews all within the same week, I believe it throws us up into the spotlight and we become like what is it on iTunes? They have a new and noteworthy section or something like that. So, anything like that just helps get us some exposure, and people might check us out.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Well, first we got an email from Sci-Fi Gene.
All right. You want me to go ahead and read that?
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up again, so go for it.
Okay. Before the new year began, I had sent feedback to your previous email address, which may have been lost in transit. Anyways, what I said earlier is that the writers are probably smarter than we give them credit for. In one of the several podcasts that I've listened to, there was an interview with a show creator about how feedback affects the timing of the show. If you don't know what a show creator is, it's basically the leader of the writing team who informs the writing staff about whether or not certain plot elements are against the main canon. This person probably has a basic idea of how the current season will end before the other writers do, without knowing the steps to get there. Anyways, the interviewed show creator said that what typically happens in show business is that the writing for the show is done months before they start doing the filming, i.e. acting, and any feedback that they do read would probably affect the writing of the next season.
Okay.
Interesting. That's good to know.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, because we were talking about that 1 or 2 episodes ago. We were talking about that stuff, so that's cool. Thanks for a bit of help in the clarification on what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. All right. He also had some thoughts about this episode, the Legion of Doom. He liked how they showed us the villain perspective this time while giving us some answers. However, I'm switching to reading his email. I'm puzzled that why the heroes were in Central City, they didn't look for the Flash and ask him for information or advice about speedsters. Yeah, that kind of bothered me too.
Yeah.
But I guess that probably should have been my nitpick. He said, unless there was a deleted scene that they cut out because of time issues. My theory about the pieces of the spear is that all the Time Masters were entrusted with a piece of it, with instructions to never stay too long in one place. That way, it would be difficult to find even one piece of the puzzle. The one thing they didn't think of was the existence of the time tracking amulet. I'm also thinking that the last scene of Rip Hunter in 1776 is the result of the Legion of Doom forcing him to do things that he normally despises doing as a form of psychological torture. Maybe they found some way of temporarily reprogramming him to do this, or maybe they found some blackmail on him. Either way, they'll probably remind him later of what they forced him to do. And maybe they'll threaten him to do more stuff unless he gives them the information that they're looking for.
That's an interesting...
That is interesting. See, I thought they just reprogrammed his brain, period.
Yeah, that's what we had just talked about. That's what I thought. So maybe they're forcing him to do things. But I wonder what could they threaten him with, though, other than killing him?
Maybe they didn't threaten him. Maybe they incentivized him. They're rewriting Destiny. They could bring his family back.
Yeah, you know what? That's true. But the other point I wanted to throw in there to counter is I think... when we saw Thawne working with the memory device and he was rewriting his brain, I think they restored most of who Rip was, because the Rip that showed up in that scene with George Washington, that was not the sniveling Phil Gossamer. It was Rip Hunter showing up. So he's back to being himself, but something's different. So and you know what? Actually, that could be, if they're holding his family, whether they already altered destiny or they said, if you do this for us, we will get your family back, that would be a powerful enough motive for Rip to do anything. Because we saw what it did to him for all of season 1.
So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That would be interesting. I like that.
Which still, again, makes Rip way more interesting of a character if he is part of the Legion of Doom. Even though he may not be wanting to do these things, he is doing them to save his family. It makes him far more interesting than he ever was in the first season.
Definitely.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah, good idea. Good stuff.
Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah. All right. Next, we've got a voicemail from Miss Patty Spivot, and she forewarned me that she thinks it's a long one, and she was maybe being influenced by Flash's old habits. I don't know.
Oh, no. How long is this?
I'm not sure, but here we go.
Hey Flash and Harley, it's Patty Spivot calling in. I actually really liked this episode a lot. I was wide awake this time when I watched it, so that helped. I gave it 8.5.
Good news.
How many people fit in Thawne's time sphere? Because I really would like to know that. I love this episode because they're finally explaining things. We don't have to guess about everything. So they're explaining like the medallion and the spear and why Thawne is even there and why he's gathering up his Legion of Doom people. And it just filled in a lot of blanks for me, which was really nice. I don't have the history with Darhk and Merlyn that you guys all do, but I'm actually really liking the addition of them to the show. I'm kind of getting a kick out of them. I love how unimpressed with each other they are. Like they're all supposed to be tough and evil, and none of them thinks the other ones are. And it's comical to me. I'm getting kind of a kick out of it. So that's been fun.
Us too.
There's a lot of emotion in this one. Like poor Phil, I felt so bad for him when he's thinking he's going to be tortured to death, and then he's not. And then they're fighting in front of him and he's just watching, you could just see he's just completely terrified about what's going to happen next with these mad dogs just going at it with their hand-to-hand combat 5 feet from his face. I also was really impressed with the way they did the scene with that big melty face flash future monster thing when it came after Thawne, and he was terrified and he couldn't move, and you could just almost feel how scared he was and not be able to do anything. And there's a few scenes that I thought they did really well. I really like Lily too. I know she's kind of a side character, but she's just so adorable, and all of her interactions with the other characters. Like she stands right up to Mick and gets in his face and demands answers. And when she was working with Ray, they were just cute with their little high fives and they're drinking champagne. And I really like what she brings out in Martin Stein too. And the scene with him and Jax, with Martin and Jax when they're talking about being a dad, and Jax's advice to him I thought was really nice. Like, just be a legendary dad. Just talk. It's easy. I don't know. I thought the scene was really nice. I do have 2 questions, actually. Could you remind me, why couldn't Eobard Thawne just phase out of the bank vault? And that reminded me of when Barry had him trapped on the Flash too, and he couldn't phase out. I can't remember why he couldn't just do his super fast, shaky phase out of things, because he can go through walls and stuff. I just can't remember why he couldn't do that. And I have another question about the Legion of Doom. I actually Googled it because I wanted to learn some more, and I did ask Flash, but you never actually answered me. But when I Googled it, all these other people came up as Legion of Doom, and Damien Darhk and Malcolm Merlyn and Reverse Flash weren't in there. Captain Cold was in there. So is there 2, or is this how it develops, or what? I don't know. So anyway, I think this is probably my record longest voicemail. I will stop talking now. I think that was all my points. But it was a fun episode, and I'm looking forward to the next one, because holy cliffhanger at the end with them reprogramming poor Rip's brain and making him go into the past. And oh my gosh, that's going to be a big deal that they did that. So looking forward to seeing where they go with the rest of the season, and looking forward to hearing the podcast. Okay, bye.
That was awesome.
That was awesome. Well, she reiterated quite a few things we talked about, and I hope we already answered the why he can't phase out of the vault question. But
yeah.
The half of that, though, why Eobard couldn't phase through the cage that Barry had him locked into. Do you remember why? That it was something to do with the material of the glass, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was something dampening, and so he couldn't.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact phrase that they used, but it dampened something so that he couldn't. He wasn't able to actually phase through it. Maybe vibrations or something along those lines. I mean, because a dampener in physics is something that decreases vibrations,
right?
Or ceases vibrations. So it's kind of like that same concept. So if something was dampening his ability to vibrate, then he can't go through the material.
Right, and Zoom used the same type of jail cells when he was keeping them captive on Earth 2. Yeah, right, right. Cool. Well, before I answer her Legion of Doom question, was there other points you wanted to address in her message?
No. She, like you said, she reiterated a lot of what we said. So
okay.
I think we're good.
Well, I think she may have missed, because I actually did answer her in a text, so maybe she missed it. But she's asking about the Legion of Doom and why the characters are different. And she sent me the picture of the Legion of Doom that she looked up. And it's from the old Super Friends cartoon where they're pulling this whole concept from. And on that cartoon, the Legion of Doom was, like I said, Lex Luthor and Black Manta and what's Superman's nemesis, the steel weirdo version of him?
I have no idea.
Why can't I remember his name? I always forget his name. It's the reverse Superman. He's like he's all messed up and screwy. I don't know. I can't remember his name. Anyway, and then there's like Cheetah and Captain Cold and whatever. So when you actually look at the picture, and we can maybe post it as well, the Legion of Doom was originally made up of the main 3 Justice League member villains. So we have Batman's villains in there, Superman's villains in there, Wonder Woman's villains in there. So because those characters aren't on our show, they're not part of our TV universe, they can't use them for the Legion of Doom because we don't have a Lex Luthor or a Black Manta. And Black Manta is Aquaman's arch enemy. Lex Luthor is Superman's arch enemy. Cheetah is Wonder Woman's arch enemy. Oh, Giganta is also in there. And so we can't use the same Legion of Doom members because these characters don't exist in our TV world yet. Maybe on Supergirl we might see a couple of them, but still. So that is why. So they can only pull from what our TV universe is connected with, and Damien Darhk's a big bad, and Malcolm Merlyn, and Captain Cold is going to join eventually, so at least that part of it makes sense. Mm-hmm. And that's really all it is. It's just because we don't have the main 3, the Trinity, as they call Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. We don't have the Trinity in our universe, so they cannot use their villains.
Yep. Yeah, it's just the TV version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So that is that. Thank you again for your nice long message, and yeah, it was fun.
It was. Thank you.
Next, we've got an email from Karina.
All right. She says, "Hey guys, gonna make this a short one. Gotta get back to work." It's okay. I just want to say that I love the episode. Great choice with the voiceover, and it's always a pleasure to see Malcolm and Darhk together. They make a good evil team. I just miss Malcolm's darkness, but I think that without the League of Assassins, he's feeling kind of sad. Okay, it's probably true. It was great to finally know Eobard's motives, especially because I actually forgot he was erased from the timeline. Ever since Flashpoint, I conclude that Barry messed up and that's it, things changed. I'm just curious how Eddie's return on The Flash will fit into this. I don't think this is spoilers because Rick has been posting pictures of him on the set. If it is, please don't read it. Oh, was that a spoiler? Whatever.
No, because
anyway.
I've seen the pictures. Yeah, we know he's coming back to the Flash.
Yeah, and we also know Captain Cold's coming back here, and we've been talking about... Anyway, okay, moving on. I don't know much about the Black Flash, but that was scary. I was feeling nervous for Eobard, really. And the CGI was great, but I hope Teddy Sears gets back eventually. That'd be cool. I don't know if that's in the cards, but that'd be cool.
That is on the horizon. I have seen word that Teddy Sears will also make an appearance again.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And Rip, when and why did he go rogue? Love the ending. Is he finally going to get interesting? Legends writers, I have all my faith in you. I rate this episode 9.5 out of 10 abrasion. No. Asphyxiation. No. Aberration. That's it. See you next week, Karina.
Great.
I love your rating.
Yeah. That was awesome.
And about Rip, I mean, we kind of talked about that one. That's the real question.
Hopefully our discussion kind of gives you some ideas as to what's going on with him there. And hopefully we also answered or gave you enough info about the Black Flash to give you a bit of understanding there. And I think we're with you on your other points too. It's just great to see it open and begin with Damien Darhk and how they carried on through. It's a good evil team that we're getting. It'll be fun.
Mm-hmm. It's exciting.
Cool. Next we have a voicemail from our green butterfly.
Hi, this is your eye in the sky green butterfly. Okay, so that wasn't my favorite episode of Legends, but it was still good. First, I was a little bit put off by the fact that they let a villain do the opening monologue. And there was
amazing.
torture. Green Butterfly hates torture. But on to the things I did like. I like that Rip's memories are saved, and that there's technology in 2025 that allows you to save your memories and back them up and put them in a safe deposit box. That's a pretty cool concept. I'm glad that Lily being a time aberration is not a secret anymore, because that was just a fact that needed to come out. And that was seriously funny. The way that Heatwave not only told the secret, as everyone assumed he would, but he could not remember the word aberration, which just made the scene funnier. I do love that they're using shared universe elements, even when it's not a crossover week. It's not to the point that you would be lost if you're not watching all the shows, but it's a fun reward for those of us that are watching all 4 shows to find these little nods and see things that we've already seen from a different perspective, such as seeing the night that Damien Darhk died from a different perspective in this episode. Was that scary character that's pursuing Eobard the character that they call the Black Flash? Do you have any insight on this character and how he differs from a time wraith, or a time pirate for that matter? This episode gets 8 out of 10 dental secrets. Have a super week. Green Butterfly out.
I love her rating. That was so fantastic.
Well, I think she's asking about Black Flash, and I think we answered that pretty good. But I also know she asked the Flash Boys over on Central City Underground the same question, and they gave a very good answer to her. So hopefully that solved her. The one thing I wanted to address about her feedback, she's bang on with a point that kind of touched on what I said in the very beginning, that our show is kind of the center that connects all of them. And it is with these tiny little crossovers and stuff, but when it's not the major mid-season crossover, they're still making all these little ones, and it's great. It's a lot of fun, because even on Arrow this week, there's a teeny bit of a Flash crossover, and I know you haven't watched it yet, Harley, so I won't tell you what happened, but Arrow visits Flash very briefly, and and there's some characters from Flash involved, so it's actually fun. They're doing a lot of these little crossovers, and it really seamlessly reminds you that they're all in the same universe. They're all connected, these 3 shows, and it's great. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I'm excited. I know I've got to watch Arrow. I just did not quite have time.
Well, cool. So thanks again, Green Butterfly. That was, you sound like you're a little bit under the weather. I think you mentioned that on one of your other feedbacks on Arrow Squad, actually. So I just hope you're doing better and feeling better.
I know. I hope you're feeling better. But thank you for the feedback.
Yeah. All right. And we end our feedback with an email from the nameless one, Denny.
The nameless one. All right. He says, "Greetings, Wonder Twins. Well, now, that's quite an interesting monologue. Damien Darhk introducing the show with his Legion of Doom. How did Darhk even know of the secret bank account barcode in Rip's tooth? Was it just coincidence he found it? Okay, you know what? I forgot to say this, but I was wondering that too. How did he know what that was? Do you have any idea? Sorry.
Well, I think when Darhk was torturing him, like he was, I'm going to break fingers, or I'm going to cut you open, or whatever, but then he grabbed the pliers and said, that's just that's a standard torture process, is to go for the teeth and pull teeth. So I think he was just doing that by chance. And that's when he noticed, whoa, what's this tooth? There's a different tooth in there that has something on it. So he plucked it out, and that led to everything else that happened. I don't think he knew it was ever in there. It's just standard torture. Pull a tooth. It's like they pull fingernails, or they break a finger, or whatever.
Yeah. But how did he know it was a barcode, like an account code? You know what I mean? I get that I can get that he stumbled upon it. That definitely makes sense. I think
he probably, before he brought it out to him, he probably examined it and looked at it with a magnifying glass or something, and just saw that it was something. We have to remember, there's a lot of little things that happen behind the scenes that we just have to assume they're smart enough to kind of
figure it out.
Or figure out. So I'm sure once he plucked it, he looked at it and he's, what? And took a closer look at it before he came and presented it to Thawne. So
to Thawne. Okay, that helps. All right, sorry. Back to Denise feedback.
Okay.
Looks like Thawne's watch may be actually an alarm to keep him out of trouble from the Black Flash. Quite the debut of this evil speedster. But why isn't Thawne or the Black Flash able to phase through the bank vault?
See, everybody's addressing that, but I think we covered it. I think we got it.
I think we did too. We want to know why too. Anyway, it was pretty cool seeing the other side of things from the side of the Legion of Doom, their internal struggles within their team, and how it took the Black Flash to finally bring them all to see each other as equals. Fascinating. With Rip's modified memories, now it looks like Rip can be considered being part of the Legion of Doom. What I do wonder is when he had the chance to save his memories, and if it was before meeting the Legends, how will he be able to remember them at all? That's the question. He's on board with you.
Yeah, exactly. He's reading my brainwaves there about being part of the Legion of Doom. So, yeah, will he remember the Legends at all? Because eventually, the Legends are going to go back in time to fix an aberration, and they're going to see that it's Rip that's causing them.
Yeah.
So that'll be very interesting if Rip recognizes or remembers the team at all. And I think that will be based on your theory as to whether he's being held captive because of his family, or they altered his brain enough that he doesn't know anything.
That's true.
He's just a bad guy. He just thinks he's a bad guy now.
Yeah. All right. But this time, our Legendaires know who the Legion's secret speedster is, and now the real fun between the two sides really begin. Let the official hunt for the spear begin. From Denny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this was episode 10, so, we got 7 more episodes to kind of watch this race for the spear, and you just know it because we've already been signed on to a 3rd season. They're going to leave us with a heck of a cliffhanger.
I know it's coming, and we're going to have so much to theorize over the break.
Oh man, exactly. Well, thanks for that, nameless one.
That's just his name. He's the nameless one.
Which kind of works. That could be a very mysterious anti-hero type of character. So there you go. Maybe we found it.
Totally.
And I had mentioned in Justina's feedback response, I was mentioned the Central City Underground. I wanted to pass, in case they're listening to us, I wanted to say thanks to Tony and Joe, because on this week's Central City podcast, they had talked about us. Someone had asked them a question about Legends of Tomorrow, and they had said, Tony and Joe had responded saying, well, we used to talk about Legends of Tomorrow, but we don't really anymore because there's another show out there that we are friends with that covers the show really well, and they do a really good job, so go check it out. So they kind of gave us a nod, and I wanted to thank them for that.
Oh yeah, thanks for the shout out, guys.
Yeah, because we often talk about them and send people their way and whatever. And I really love Tony and Joe. When I listen to their podcast, I think they have an entertainment value that no other podcast can match. That the two of them, their sense of humor and how quick-witted they are, and the way they read each other, it's priceless. And I've never seen that type of podcast host. I don't know what you would call it, like dynamic. Yeah, they're pretty amazing, pretty quick with each other.
They are. They have a great rapport. I like them.
Yeah. So thanks for that, guys. Just wanted to make sure you heard that.
Thanks.
Cool. So we have a little something for you if you would like to be part of our show.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegends@gmail.com. That's spelled with 1 R. You can also reach us on Twitter @tomorrowslegends, also with 1 R. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/tomorrowslegends and become part of the community.
What do you think of that, Harley?
That is amazing. I absolutely love it. I love the music.
Yeah, I told Dan to do something that ties in a bit to Legends of Tomorrow, but kind of comic booky, heroic sounding. So he had some fun creating that stuff. So
that was great.
Cool. All right, well, let's get into some real quick 2-part section, because fans have asked us to continue talking about Flash and Arrow a little bit, so we had decided we're going to just highlight it really quick and not do any long-winded discussions, because there is podcasts out there that cover these shows. But just to give you 2 cents on our feelings, I have named, when we cover Flash, it is called flashpoints.
My name is Barry Allen, and I am the fastest man alive.
All right, Harley. So for me, Flash is consistently keeping its hold as a solid, smooth operator. This week, the episode was just fantastic. Having Julian providing the snarky retorts, they're hilarious. Cisco falling for the anti-hero woman like he always does.
She was great, by the way. Oh my god, I loved her character.
She is so cool. Yeah, Gypsy was her name. But then also seeing him develop his powers because of her was very cool. It was very, very cool. And Flash accepting and even enjoying having Wally West, Kid Flash at his side was very, very cool to see them developing that, mentor and apprentice kind of relationship. It was cool.
Yeah.
And then Iris finally digging into her investigative journalist in nature. It was good to see because people have been complaining that Iris does nothing but complain about boys. So it's cool that even though she was a bit of a dummy, going into the building all alone.
Yeah.
That's full of bad guys and guns. So yeah, but whatever. She's doing her thing. She's an investigative journalist and she's going to get herself in sticky situations. So that was cool. Also, I find HR is continuing to grow on me and seeing the friendships develop between him and the team. It's just cool. It's cool to see, and it was a cool episode all around, I thought.
Yeah, I thought so too. I also kind of liked HR, and he's kind of growing on me. He drove me crazy at first, but he's kind of he's kind of getting there. But now it looks like he's a more permanent part of our team. I was wondering if it was going to be a continual revolving door of Harrison Wells, but
yeah,
I don't know if we'll still get to see Harry again, because I still do kind of like Harry. But
Harry was my favorite at Earth 2 Harrison Wells. I think he was by far my favorite. I really would like to see, I'm liking HR now, but I have a feeling he still might not stay. I really want them to somehow, with all this time traveling, altering history stuff, I would love to see them get an original version of Harrison Wells. The only time we saw him was in the flashback clip when Eobard Thawne was trying to find some information about him. And we saw him on the beach with his fiancée discussing the possibility of building Star Labs. That I would love to see that Harrison Wells, because he seemed very romantic and in tune and just an all around kind of nice guy that happened to be brilliant. So I would love to see that side of him too for a season.
That's true. That'd be nice. Mm-hmm. We'll see. Maybe I'll get there. But it was a good episode. I really enjoyed it.
Cool. Well, I'm glad. Now you haven't, moving on to Arrow, which I have called Straight Shots.
By day, I lead Star City as its mayor, but by night, I am someone else. I am something else. I am the Green Arrow.
So I'll just tell you what I feel. I don't think I give anything too much away here because you kind of know what's going on in the story. You just haven't caught up with it, but
it's fine.
So for my Arrow Straight Shots, I find it's improving every episode right now. I think it's finding its groove and getting back on track, because these last two episodes were absolutely fantastic. It's having that good old Arrow feel again, partly due to it being centered around Oliver, as it should be. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that listen to Arrow Squad, you've heard me already over there, so that's why these are just very short points. This week we got a new Black Canary, and I gotta say, Harley, I love her already.
Really?
Oh my god,
okay. I'm excited.
She is exactly the canary we should have got with Sarah and Laurel, but neither of them quite fit the mantle. So I'm excited to see how she fits into the team and what develops with her and Oliver. And once you listen to our Arrow Squad coverage this week, you will hear me go into more depth about why I like the Black Canary. Okay. She's awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Okay, I'm excited.
I'm also finally liking Wild Dog as we see more of who he is. And Curtis accepting that he's more valuable as a tech guy than a street fighter. And the thing that I'm looking forward to is Diggle getting back into the mix, and hopefully Thea, because we've been missing Thea lately. Mm-hmm. But I also talk about my reasons as to why I think those guys haven't been part of the show, so you hear that on Arrow Squad as well. There's a lot of talk about Arrow missing something without the originals getting screen time, and I can't argue that, so you'll hear what I have to say over there. But to defend Arrow, I just think they're working towards something great, developing the new characters, and then bringing back our veterans to have a more cohesive unit. because having them all on the show at once is just too many characters and not enough screen time for all of them.
I completely agree with that last statement, 100%.
Yeah. So, and there you go. That is our flashpoints and straight shots.
Yay.
Yay.
That's fun. Fun new segment.
Yeah. Well, so to wrap up our show, next week looks kind of interesting. I haven't looked I don't like looking ahead at the spoilers, but I saw a picture of our good old Mick dressed in a colonial uniform. And you know what? I'm sure we're going to address this next week. We're usually laughing at Mick and how silly he looks. He actually suits this Civil War type era.
Nice.
In his colonial uniform. I was like, whoa, okay. He's found his timeline.
Nice. All right. Well, it'll be exciting. Wait, are we doing Civil War or Revolutionary War?
Oh, you know what? I could be mixing them up. I'm not sure which one it is.
I'd assume it's Revolutionary. I think they're going to address the stuff with Rip quickly.
Well, it has to be. So George Washington is the Revolutionary War then?
That is correct. Okay. That would be when we freed ourselves from Great Britain, so to speak, I guess. And then Civil War was slavery. So
cool. Very awesome. Well, that wraps it up for us. We will, we'll be back in a couple of days. It is Sunday. We're a couple days late, so we apologize for that, guys.
Sorry, my fault.
Sometimes people get sick. I'm still actually fighting the remnants of a cold here, so yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries. No worries at all. I'm just glad that you're better and we could get this done and out, and we'll talk to everybody in a few days again.
Yay.
All right, Harley. Well, we will be talking to you soon, so you get yourself better and talk to you in a few days.
Yeah, you too. I will talk to you soon.
All right, this is The Flash, signing off.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network. Find our podcast in iTunes. You can leave us a rating and review. We'd love that. As well, we can now be found in Google Play Music.